Hi, I'm Dr. Jim Hoven, your host of the Difference Makers podcast. This is a place where people come together that are making a difference for those who want to make a difference. And that's you. We're bringing thought leaders together in a sense of fusion where ideas and concepts and personalities are all driven together into one place at one time. And this is no different. In this episode, you're going to see cool things from cool people making a difference. Hello, difference makers. It's time for another shout out, and have fun session with Dr. Ramos and myself. And we're going to be answering a question today. We're doing a multi-part series, and this is going to be really cool because he and I have the chance to talk with a lot of people every single day, and people ask us questions. And a lot of times they come down to, he and I were just talking about this yesterday. They come down to, what decision should I make? And in fact, I don't really know what to do. So we talked about it, we thought about it, and we said, what something fun would be to talk about is what to do when you don't know what to do. So we scrambled around a little bit, put our brains together, and we're going to share with you guys what to do when you don't know what to do, but it's not going to come just with answers. We're going to talk first today about how do we get there in the first place? So why don't we dive right into that, Dr. Ramos, about getting into that topic. You hear about that a lot, right? People asking you, like, what should I do? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's pretty much kind of my everyday life as your business grows bigger from a business perspective. Now, it happens to me personally as well. Yep. But as your business grows bigger, it's always, what do I do here? Mm-hmm. And I'm not too sure what to do. I don't know what to do. And then that brainstorming process that you go through that. And so I found this more and more and more in my life. We think personally as, if we have children, or you can go back before that, if you're going to get married, you can go back before that when you're going to go to school. It's always, what should I do? Yes. I don't know what to do. And so, when you brought this up, by the way, you guys, this guy, you're a freaking freak. He comes to me and he says, what do you think of this topic? And I said, that sounds awesome, because it goes through all the things that we just said, like from as far back as you can remember, with school, the marriage, everything, what to do when you don't know what to do. And I was like, man, that sounds awesome. But the freak part of this is this. I said, it sounds good. You said, okay, you'll be ready. I'm like, yeah. And you go, okay, I'm going to give you an outline. He takes off to his office. He comes back a couple hours later. Brother, you could write a book. You put down so many great thoughts, so many things. I started reading this and I was like, I got into this. So I hope everybody will listen to this whole podcast. And I think we're going to do a series on this, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because, man, this got me excited. This was awesome. And you're a freak. I can't believe you. I don't know how your mind comes up with this stuff and how you think so quickly and so clearly on things that are so helpful. Because just reading your outline helped me. You'll see as we talk about it. I don't know what you're going to say today. You don't know what I'm going to say today.
Nope.
I just know that you had an outline with general bullet points about kind of, what do you think about this, how we talk about this? And my mind just ran. I've got pages of paper in front of me because my mind just started running out. So
mine as well. It's interesting when we get these kind of conversations, and thank you for that, by the way. I really appreciate that. These are projects of joy for me to get thoughts out on the paper that either we've gone through or that we can get into to help each other and help people. It's really exciting. And when I thought about this topic, I was like, there's a gradient to this of not knowing what to do. Like, it can range anywhere from, I don't know what to do for dinner tonight. I don't know what to do. And literally you can be paralyzed for a minute of what to do.
Isn't that the truth?
It goes and so the gradient goes up to a few things that hit my mind, like, where should I go to college? And you mentioned that, right? Mm-hmm. And then they start the stakes can get higher. Like, I went through a divorce and I'm like, what do you do with that? And what do I do next? All those things. So then it kind of the pinnacle, at least in my life, that I've had to go through is, what do you do after the loss of a loved one who's close to you? Well, I don't know what to do, right? And so the point is, I think, is we're all at a gradient of this. We're all going to experience it. So if we could come up with strategies that help us, and we're going to do that later, but it really makes a difference to help our lives change the quality. And I know that you've had to have experienced too with all the things that you've done, in your life.
Yeah, I've experienced it a lot, and I want to talk a little bit. I want to back up just a touch before I go into personally in my life, but the gradient that you talk about, because I'll give you one small example, and you've heard me say this before about this experience in my life, but as I read your bullet points, they started to come back out, and I thought it was worth sharing. There is a gradient, from dinner, which is something probably lower on our I don't know what to do, type of list, to marriage, to career choices, and such, and to decisions you're faced with every day. Some may be even life-threatening, or some may be, what car do I buy, right? And here's a gradient example that reminds me, and it was a flashback. So I used to be somewhat famous in the residency. I was an attending, as you know, for 10 years at level 1 teaching hospital, the University Hospital, close to 10 years. I trained in level 1 hospital at Denver General, now Denver Health Medical Center. And I used to always tell the residents, you know what MD stands for? You've heard me say this before. What MD stands for? Make a decision. Make a decision. So, word spread quickly throughout the residency. So by the time they're at their third year, you know what MD stands for? Make a decision. Yes. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. And they'd make a decision, right? They started to catch on. All the new interns, all the new residents, when they were new, they would look at me like, oh, what does MD stand for? Medical doctor,
Yeah.
And it was over stuff like this. Sometimes the question where I would say, what's MD stand for at an intern type level, maybe they're sewing a wound up and it has a flap. And what should I do here? Should I pull the flap in first? Should I put some subcuticular stitches in? Should I use absorbing? Should I use it this size or that size? And that's one level of making decisions. Some of the decisions were somebody's bleeding out in front of you. And should I intubate him first? Should I get some large bore IVs going? Should I order blood now? Should I, and you're hit with those decisions. You can see in the same department, in the same hour, one gradient of decision may be about a wound, nobody's dying, and the next one may be where seconds matter.
Right.
And that really is how life is. And I hope we can touch on some of the deeper, in either this part or in the next part, probably in the next part, on the answers on how we get to those decisions, both easy and hard.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I've definitely had those, and I think where you were going with that when you led in the gradient was, have I had those in my life and such? And most definitely. And I feel guilty talking about any making a decision hard parts in my life, because you mentioned something in your own life already that nothing compares to. Loss of your child, right? Loss of Connor, and. When I think about that, I start to get a little trembly thinking about it, because I'm a dad, and that's, I don't know, that gets really, really deep. And after you talk about that, because I'd like to ask you about that, where that may have affected you, or where that came up, what to do when you don't know what to do. After you talk about that, I don't know if I should even talk about anything, because how can you be in the same room and the same topic and the same conversation with someone who's gone through that level of what to do when you don't know what to do? So tell me actually about that, because you brought it up, so I feel safe entering that box.
For sure. As I was thinking about a personal example of not knowing what to do, because I want people to know it happens to everybody. Everybody is going to be faced with it, whether at a subconscious level of like, oh, I don't know what to do for dinner, or at the max level. For me, the highest stakes that I've ever been was when we lost Connor. And I know that when you're at a point where you don't know what to do, it can lead to the emotions of feeling completely helpless and hopeless. It can lead to frustration. All these emotions can come through. And, as I was thinking, I was thinking about, like, do I want to talk about it? Because it's the obvious thing for me of not knowing what to do. And man, I've been so fortunate, because I've been working on myself for a long, long time of intentionally pouring information in through all kinds of places in order to hopefully make my best version of myself. And in that moment, I'll never forget it. And you would appreciate this as your emergency room background and all the lives that you saw changed, saved, lost, all of it. When we were in that room and things were not looking good, we went from Connor having a type of pancreatitis where everything looked like he was going to basically get out of the hospital and close on his first property on a Tuesday.
Wow.
On Sunday, he's in with a stomach ache. On Sunday night, they're going, yeah, you'll be fine. On Monday, they're like, oh, this isn't looking so good, and now we're going to have to take him in for dialysis, and we hope this takes him down, and this is the key to it. And by Tuesday morning, they called us in, his mom and I, and they said, look, his bowel is dying. There's too much pressure from blood on it, and so it's not getting any perfusion. His bowel is dying, and in the meantime, I had called his sister or sisters, and I said, "Look, guys, you guys need to get out here." And so they were on the first flight they could get into, and so they called us in, and they said his bowel is dying, and he's retaining all this blood, and basically we think that we have to try to get some of that blood off of there if we're going to have a chance to do anything with this. But there's a risk that he could bleed out with this.
Now stop right there for a minute.
Yeah.
So at that point, because you mentioned emotion, and I can't imagine at this point what do you do when you don't know what to do? Clearly you're feeling, I don't know what to do. What can I do?
Yep.
But what was the emotions at that point? When I think of emotions, I think of sadness. I think of, anxiety, frustration. What all emotions were you experiencing right then at that point where you are?
It was, honestly, it was, you got to fight through the storm. You got to do what you know best. And this is what I told the doctors. I said, look, you do whatever you have to do in order to try to keep him alive until his sisters get here. That's what I need you to do. And I don't care what that is. You just make that happen. And they said, well, we think this is the best choice for that to happen.
And now at that point, he's on life support.
He's on life support.
They've told you about, his organs are starting to fail. The blood is, and fluids are going in places they shouldn't be. How does it go from there? What happens then?
So, and to back up just 2 seconds from that, we were, by now there's probably 20 people in the reception area because word got out. And so friends and family had gathered and they were letting us go in 2 and 3 at a time. But we had been there for hours and hours. And literally I knew it didn't look good, but I never gave up of what could happen, So we're doing all that we know how to do, Shauna and I, and we're basically just trying to stimulate his nervous system and talking to him. And, we're just doing anything we can to connect with our boy.
Yes.
And so once we knew that they were going to do this deal, they said, it might go bad. So, you guys need to go out now. So
this is a major surgery?
Major surgery. Okay. Yep. Where they're going to try to take this blood off. And so we go out into the reception area, and then literally 15 minutes later, they call us back. And I had a sick feeling in my stomach. Oh. And they took us into a room and they basically said, just like we had told you, we did the surgery and he couldn't withstand the loss of blood. And so he's gone. And I remember just looking and I was like, can this be real? Wow. Can this be? And I'd watched it degrade, but I just remembered 48 hours before.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a stomach ache.
A stomach ache. And him saying, Daddy-o, I love you. I'm going to be fine. Right? Everything was good. And then it was over.
Yanks my heart.
And I remember walking out into, and so his mom stayed, she was there. And I said, look, you just stay here. So I went and there were 20 people out there. And I basically just said, guys, he's gone. And now I'm weeping.
Yeah.
And I said, basically I said, I don't know what to do. And
can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was so bad.
Yeah.
And then I said, all I know is that I'm going to need, I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, my world is shattered.
Yes.
But
yeah,
I said, I'm going to need every one of you for help to get through. And so, so that's where I felt the most of, what am I going to do? How do you go forward without your kid?
Yeah.
And I'd never felt anything like that.
Yeah. And I knew the minute that you said that when we started this today, when you said that, I was like, I can't say anything after that. If we're going to talk about Connor, because, I know he's your fishing buddy.
Yep.
He's your boy, your only boy in that regard. You have a couple boys through, through your marriage.
My step boys,
step boys. But I know you love them just like you loved Connor. But But I knew that when you said that today, that that's a tough one to follow up on, because what do you do? What do you do when you lose your child?
And we will talk. I'll kind of share with us later what I did do, but. It was such a crazy place to be. And while it's not, it's not the same, I would love for you to tell your story about how you decided to go into emergency medicine, because I know when you were talking about that, some of the things you shared, again, this is a gradient thing, right? So everyone's going to go through it, but I think people would get a really good insight on a different level of that, on, you had all these places to go and you had to decide. And I remember you calling your mama, like, what do I do? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I'm glad we mentioned the gradient thing first, because we started at the far side of that gradient with you and Connor,
Yep.
and now let's go to the lighter, lesser side, which is something as small as my career in emergency medicine, and because it is very small in light of that. And but I had some of the same feelings that you probably had then, hopelessness, helplessness, and such with a particular decision in my life, and hopefully we'll get to discuss later too how I got through my decision. But this was a personal thing that happened. Actually, two personal things that happened to me. 2 times in my life I can really remember wondering, what do I do? What do I do now? And I did not know what to do. One that as my friend is, well, you know both of these, but the one on the emergency medicine stuff was I had, for those of you who don't know, as I went through medical school, I excelled in all of the surgical specialties. I have good hand-eye coordination. That's why I can trap shoot, and why I was a good basketball player and stuff. And to be a decent surgeon, you that matters. Yeah. and people could tell, like when we would start to sew up people, or at the close of cases and stuff, like my stuff was done right and done fast because I was natural at that. And so I kind of geared myself towards the a surgical specialty. And the further I went into medical school and stuff, it looked like orthopedics, which probably it. I liked a lot of the guys who were athletic. I liked the kind of hammer and saw aspect of it. I didn't like the fine stuff like a plastic surgeon would do, even though I could do it and did it pretty well. I was more attracted to that orthopedic end and the guys that were a part of that. And so I had letters of recommendation from orthopedic surgeons. I had done all of my extra rotations in orthopedic surgery as kind of like your pre-interview to get in. And the night before we had to have our picks in for the match. So there's this thing in medical school where you go through all these 4 years, and before you get to start your residency, you rank all these schools in the area that you want to do to get in there, and you're hoping to get in there to train in that area. And you have to put in all these picks, and when they're in, man, you're in. Welcome to life.
Wow.
Welcome to the rest of your life. The rest of your life, what you're going to wake up and do every day, what you're going to, sleep and dream and talk to people about, and on and on and on. And something just wasn't hitting me in the heart, right? It wasn't hitting me in the heart. And I called my mom the night before I had to put my picks in for the match, and I said, I don't think I can do this. And I think she was like, what do you mean you can't do this? Are you talking like be a doctor? It's pretty broad statement there.
Yeah. You're far down the road at that point.
Yeah, I really didn't know what to do. I felt in my heart that there was a lot of things about surgery in general and orthopedics at that point that weren't a fit for me. One of them was what I call the wallet biopsy. Before people got in to see us, they showed their insurance card, they paid their copay or their deductible. They were heavily screened at the front end. They may or may not get approved for particular, hardware or something. And we only saw the people that had insurance, had money, had whatever. And that always struck me wrong because that wasn't how I was raised. I wouldn't have gotten in. Mm-hmm. That was the case for surgery probably, right? Didn't have health insurance for some of when I was growing up. And so that bothered me. The other thing that bothered me was if an orthopedic surgeon, the ones I trained with and under, and even one since then, I know some of my orthopedic buddies are probably going to write ugly comments below here with this comment, but I felt like if they had the choice that day to get up and go do a knee replacement or fix a traumatic fracture, femur fracture from a car crash, or the chance to take their wife and go hiking in the mountains, or go with their buddy and go fly fishing, they'd pick the surgery all day, every day. Sickos. Man, they just it was all about that. And I loved it and I enjoyed it. And I was, I was good at it. But I didn't enjoy it more than my wife and hiking in the mountains or more than fishing with you. Not at all. And I felt like if I was given that choice, I would go do, the other things. And I was worried about that. So the night before the match, I changed specialties and put myself in for something altogether different.
So good. And the rest is history, right?
Like, the rest is history.
And then away it goes. And we're going to talk more about that too. But I thank you for giving an example. And hopefully us each giving an example of our lives lets people know, hey, we're not talking from a standpoint of theory here. Like we've gone through these things. And so I think let's delve into a little bit about why people feel this way, why they can't make a decision. I know one thing that is probably the foundation of it is fear. Fear of like, what happens if it doesn't go well? What happens if it does go well? All of these things that we don't know. And what do they say? Fear is false evidence appearing real, right? A lot of times.
Oh, that's good.
And so if we see, well, we won't get into dealing with fear right at the moment, but fear is a big thing. What other things do you think drive people to get into that position of, I can't move. I don't know what to do?
Well, this is like the game of Family Feud where you get to pick the choices because there are many, and you just pick the top one.
The number one.
You pick the one. You pick the one with all the points because everything else does relate back to fear. Fear is ultimately it. It's the end all be all thing. And I liked it. What'd you say fear stands for again?
False evidence appearing real. False
evidence appearing real. Wow, that's so true. Well, everything does go back to fear, and it's I think either there's stuff like embarrassment. People fear. There it is, the word again, being embarrassed. Failure. If you think about failure, it's the fear of failure. If you think about adequacy, am I good enough? Fear of being good enough or being perceived as good enough. Sometimes it's almost like a fear of being discovered. I think a lot of people live where they start to think that they're held in some light, and by some inaction or something, they might show that they're really not all that, right? But again, you pick the number one choice off the board. I really think that the reason that we get to all of the different things, I know that one of the things I think that we had talked about one of our employees at one time was self-confidence.
Big. So big.
Really big, yeah. But that relates back to fear.
I think on the mechanical side of it, I think that's the emotional side for sure. Sometimes it's not having enough information. And if people aren't great at getting information or receiving or interpreting information, that can make them feel really locked down too, right? And one other thing that really hit me that I didn't fully appreciate until you brought the working genius model into our organization. And for those of you that don't know, we've done a whole episode on the working genius model. You can check that out. So that's not for here. But discernment is one of the geniuses, right? And discernment is helping you make decisions. And for some people, that can be a frustration / weakness. So for some people whose their discernment is natural and a gift, a God-given gift, they tend to not be as frozen in this paralysis by analysis business because they can discern and make decisions quickly. But if that's not a gift to you, that's something that, we'll talk about more later, but that can be a cause for people not moving as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing you'll find when you talk about not knowing what to do is this. I think you learn at some point that even if you have the gift of discernment, let's just say that you're one of those people, you make a decision like you said, like that, right? You know what you're going to do because you get this feeling or this intuition or whatever. Where you have it in one place, you don't have it in another.
Ooh, yeah.
And there are a lot of people walking around, and this is actually something that gives me a lot of confidence because it's real. And that's it. There's a lot of people walking around who might pretend like they have it all together. Nobody has it all together.
Amen to that.
Everybody wonders what to do. Everybody has a hard time making decisions. Everybody has things they struggle with. And anybody who pretends they don't is pretending, and they probably actually have a harder time.
Ooh, what a distinction. I think that's important so we put on a facade sometimes because we don't want to not know what to do. And sometimes it's okay not to know what to do, but there are consequences to basically doing nothing, right? Yeah. Like, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Well, oftentimes one of the problems is that we resort to what we do know, and there's consequences for that. And the consequences I would just want to share from my perspective is if you don't do anything, you lose opportunity.
Oh, that's
right?
for sure.
And by opportunity, it could be anything. It could be that person that you always wanted to go out and have a date with or talk with, or a position that you wanted to ask someone. Like, I'll tell you a story about this. This is funny. I don't know if you ever have this, but if there's ever a person in your life that you could sit down, one of the big questions is, alive or dead, have you ever met anybody that the one person you would love to have dinner with, right?
Right.
Alive or dead?
Yes.
The one person that I would love to have dinner with, alive or dead right now, is Tony Robbins.
Really?
Just love that guy for 100,000 reasons. But I saw him in Aspen one day. Okay. I was up in Aspen with my friends, and he was at an ice cream shop. Okay. So I go into the ice cream shop, I buy ice cream, and then I'm out eating it. He's in the ice cream shop now ordering. And he caught me out of my eye. I'm like, who is this monster? Because he's huge. He's like 6'7", 6'8". He's a big man.
Wow.
Right. And so I see him there out of the corner of my eye, and I watch him go to the ice cream shop. And I was with Shauna and our friend Missy. And I said, hey, that's Tony Robbins. That's Tony freaking Robbins over there. And so they're like, really? Yeah. And I said, I'm going to go say hi. And so I went over there, and I said, look, hey, just want to say hi. Thank you for the work you do. I so appreciate you. And his big bare hand just encased mine.
Wow.
And I said, oh man, thank you for saying that. He was really gracious and kind. And you know what? I walked out of there, and I thought about it. I was so into the moment of just being honored to be around him that I didn't take the chance to ask him, hey, while you're here, I would love to have dinner with you. I know you probably can't, but if you were available, it would be the honor of my lifetime. I blew it, right? Lost opportunity forever because I didn't know what to do in the moment. I froze, I was like, oh. But anyway, so when we don't do anything, we lose opportunities like that. Like I lost there. Not that he would have said yes, but I had the opportunity for him to say yes. We lose time. We lose money. We lose potential joy. What do you see as consequences of people not moving at all?
You definitely lose everything you just said. And one of the biggest things is personal growth. Every time that you're faced with a what to do thing, and literally you relate this to anything, marriage or whatever, you lose an opportunity for personal growth. If it's a question of what to do with a struggle you're having with your spouse, you've lost an opportunity to be a better spouse, to be a better person. When, what do you do when you have to, as you said, make a decision to meet somebody who's very influential to you? You maybe lost an opportunity to then make yourself, he would have dropped some nugget when you were talking to him that would have made you a more influential person, a more impactful person. And then it starts that wake where you start impacting everybody else. So number one, I think you lose personal growth when you don't know what to do. Number two is that, and with personal growth comes opportunity. You never know when sometimes, we just did this week. We had a meeting, Dr. Hoven and I had a meeting with a very influential group of leaders who have taken multiple very large, big name companies that if we were to name them, like they've led them, they've spoken to they've been in the conference rooms with the multi-billionaires of the world. Yes.
Brainstorming.
And we, Dr. Hoven and myself and our leadership team here, we have an idea to work with them on something that could be dramatic.
Game changer,
like game changing stuff. As Dr. Hoven would say, 10X stuff.
10X it.
Yeah. And I put together our presentation to them and a little 20-minute Shark Tank sell to them prior to that got them out here. They flew this team out to Colorado to meet with here at our headquarters after the Shark Tank presentation. And I was faced with, what do you do? How do you talk to a bunch of guys about business who know more about business than we'll ever know in our lives?
I know. It was incredible. Right? I'll tell you what, though, thank God that you found that opportunity, because we learned something, and man, what a synergy, right?
Yeah. Yes. And so I think that, the personal growth thing we talked about and where I was leaning into was exactly the word you just used, opportunity.
Yes.
And with that opportunity comes like new opportunities and new responsibilities. And then what are we both doing? We're both leaving that meeting and going and studying and learning about some of the things they said that we're like, what the heck is that?
Yes.
Right. And so, intellectual growth too. So really not making a decision stymies so many areas. And it just matters what topic you put it on. Put it on something with your job, It might be a financial impact.
Yeah.
Put on something with a personal interest. It might be personal growth. Apply that question to your family. It might be being a better family member. The end result is one big word called loss.
Ooh, one big word called loss.
Yeah.
I got to throw this in. It just hit my brain. When we talk about a consequence of not making a decision, and when you just say, I don't know what to do, and you stop there, it's like building a muscle.
Right.
Only it's building a muscle building a negative muscle of, oh, next time something comes up hard, I'm not going to know what to do. Our body gets into that. We're going to transition into that, but it's so important, I think, for people to understand that decision making is a muscle. And so if we don't do that, then the next time it comes up, we feel less empowered and more likely to just let someone else do it or hope it goes away or whatever. And so I think it would really be good for us to delve into the biological stuff. And this is where I know this is your wheelhouse, right?
Yes.
What happens to the body when we get under stress and under uncertainty that leads us to either A, not excel and take a move or make a decision, or when we're in that, what happens physiologically to us?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, we need to give a whole talk on this and even for our medical business, to the medical providers. But I'm glad you used the word muscle memory of failure, because when you don't know what to do, and when you throw your hands up in the air and you go into that moment of paralysis, it does become muscle memory. And it becomes muscle memory, not in the sense of we would think of muscle memory, but what happens is our neuroendocrine system, from our brain to our organs, is governed by this miraculous system that, well, as an example, everybody can probably relate to this. Somebody ever said something to you and you get chills?
Yes.
Your hair stands up. Your hair stands up. You have that. Has somebody ever done something and, well, just now when we're talking, we both got profoundly sad for a moment. I sensed your emotion. I started to get very sad over here. It was very hard. I'm swallowing hard trying to keep it together, feeling your sadness. What's happening is my system is reacting. That's not some act when your hair stands up. That's that part of our nervous system where our neuroendocrine, the biology in our system begins to work. And it works like this. The body knows immediately to trigger release of certain neurotransmitters. So for example, they've shown that when you do drugs or you drink alcohol, you get this dopamine surge. Well, what's dopamine do? It's just like the word dope. It's this, it's like in sex, there's a lot of dopamine release. And what dopamine does is it's all things good.
Motivation.
Motivation to do whatever that was.
Yeah.
But if that's drinking or drugs, that's not all that good.
Right.
And so that's just one example. A fight or flight response. We're sitting in here, all of a sudden somebody breaks in the door and we have to run. Immediately our bodies will dump a whole bunch of norepinephrine, epinephrine, and what happens, the body dumps this and does this moment to moment to moment. That's why you can start to get a little nervous or anxious. You're about to speak. Your heart rate starts to goes up. You feel a little bit flushed. You might feel a little bit sweaty or clammy. How's it happen? The neuroendocrine system. We're dumping neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are just these little bitty, you can look at them this way, like little molecules that are released from one spot, and there's receptors all over the body for them, little cups waiting to catch the ping pong balls. And they run around, they attach. The minute they attach, they trigger something downstream from there. So in the fight or flight response, when somebody were to break in here right now in the middle of this podcast, we would dump a whole bunch of norepinephrine, a whole bunch of epinephrine. What's that do? It gets released, attached to receptors. They send a nervous response down, tells our heart rate go up, tell our muscles tense up, why does your heart rate go up? We want to get blood flow everywhere. We're about to fight. We're about to run. We need blood flow. So our bodies are perfectly programmed in this manner to be affected by everything we do. So taking this full circle on this, what do you do when you don't know what to do? The minute we begin to get feelings of fear, what we talked about, anxiety, hopelessness, helplessness, sadness, anything, every single one of those things release different neurotransmitters in our body and how to deal with it. Some of the neurotransmitters are released maybe to actually calm us down and relax us. Certain neurotransmitters relax smooth muscle, relax the vessels. Some tighten them up and run the heart up. And it just depends on what the situation is. We are perfectly programmed to have that system work for us. I mean, how incredible is that?
It is so incredible. And in fact, as I was visiting with you, talking to you made me go, you know what? I need to go look up a little bit about this. And so you stimulated me to go check some things out. And interestingly enough, we you mentioned it, fight, flight, and then we have freeze. And that's what we're talking about, right? If you don't know what to do, you freeze. Yes. And what happens when the body when it feels cornered or trapped, if the brain if it says, I'm trapped, then it goes into this freeze mode. But the problem with that is it also then changes our focus so that we're not able to focus on solutions. Instead, we focus on doubt. So it creates a conflict in the brain where, oh crap, I don't know what the solution is, but I don't know if it's going to work out. And now we're in a negative loop, and all of that just it doesn't that, like, if I'm reading it right, that makes more of the same chemical that it was creating in the first place.
You're exactly right. The perfect example of this, cortisol with stress. You start to feel stressed and the body releases a little cortisol. Why is it doing it? It's trying to get the rest of your body, the other organs, to respond, to release and break down sugars and provide energy and provide stuff. And then what happens? You're stress releasing cortisol, and now the more cortisol you release, the more stressed you get. And I think, would you call it like a cycle or a loop?
Yeah.
It's a spiral. It's a spiral into the toilet, all based on that. And part of knowing what to do when you don't know what to do is knowing how to stop that.
Yes.
Because it is very, very stoppable. And what happens is we usually, over time in our lives, we kind of almost, by process of elimination, we learn it, but don't really know we've learned it. And I'll give you an example. You probably remember the very first time that you spoke publicly, and look at you now. So why aren't you just as ramped up now? Well, you were probably a little sweaty then. You might have.
I was a lot sweaty.
And let me ask you this. Again, relates back to the kind of the neurobiology of this. You probably had a harder time thinking of what you wanted to say.
Completely.
That reaching for words, that grasping for words, growing more from a script, reading from something. You and I can sit here today with a few bullet points on a piece of paper. We're having this whole conversation from bullet points.
Yes.
Back in those days, man, I had to type it out.
Yes.
I had to read it.
Word for word, memorize it. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And because you couldn't think clearly if you didn't, and you might lose your train of thought. And oh my gosh, then that fear and that anxiety creeps in. And if I lose my train of thought, then you might all of a sudden go, why am I here today? Right? So that is that overwhelming. And over time, by process really of trial and error, you've blunted your system where now you don't get the same release of transmission. Matter of fact, you probably get more pleasure.
Yeah.
Transmission.
I'm getting more good of the dopamine, epinephrine is flowing through me right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, and hopefully we'll get into this in the next part of this series on the how-to. We've talked a lot, we went today pretty deep into, this topic of, what this should have been is when you don't know what to do is what we should have done this, because we haven't got to what to do.
Yes.
Now that I think is exciting, because I plan on, when we talk about what to do, I'm going to speak from some experience that helps me in that moment of, oh gosh, what was I talking about? Oh no, yeah. Am I going to look stupid? I feel like I'm embarrassing myself. I think honestly, I'll relate to something even off base of that I'm very confident of. When I used to fly an airplane, when you first start flying, it's like, okay, this is a long ways up here.
Right. What could possibly go wrong here?
Yeah.
Worst case scenario is not good.
Worst case scenario is not good. If I hit all the way down there, it's not going to look good. And now, as you know, I really enjoy the beauty of flight, and my heart rate goes down. And so how do I get there? What do you do?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's some techniques, some actual techniques that can save from having to just experience this stuff and blunt yourself to it until your body naturally teaches itself to where you can teach yourself what to do. There are simple life practices, and they do affect, again, this is jumping back into that medical aspect of it. They do affect the kind of the neurochemistry, the neurobiology of how we respond.
Man, I am so excited to jump into that next episode. We are going to absolutely have a great time. So I hope you've gotten something from this. And remember, 2-part series of what we're going to do and how we're going to fix it. So even if you don't know what to do, this tells you why. Now we're going to tell you how. How do you get out of that, move to the next piece? So you're going to want to share this with people, get them ramped up. And so that when the next time you come back, we're going to talk about the solution. So Dr. Ramos, as always, thanks for sharing your heart with me and bringing my heart out of me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I love you. And we'll go do this again very, very soon.
I love you too, brother. Appreciate the time together. And I cannot wait for the next part.
Absolutely. Me too. And until next time, you guys Go make a difference.